Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Football Frenzy. I'm Paul Valley. Notorious in his absence is Adam Rothgeb. We actually weren't able to do a show last week because I wasn't available, Adam wasn't available. So we said we were going to combine the recaps from the Bills game and the Jets game into a show this week. However, Adam started a new job, so he doesn't get home until pretty late sometimes. We usually record on Wednesdays, and he was unavailable Wednesday, unavailable today. So I am going solo for just the second time all season. Not too bad that I've only had to do 2 solo shows, considering the guy started a new job and he's got a young family. So I'm good with going solo. Done it plenty of times before with my other stuff. So without further ado, also want to apologize for wearing the beanie. It's not very professional. However, I'm in my man cave and it's kind of cold down here, but at least they're Ravens colors. So now, without further ado, let's get right down into it. Ravens beat the Bills 24-17 a couple of weeks ago. Lamar Jackson was 16 of 24 for 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not one of his better games, but he still threw 3 touchdowns. Then he goes off 15 of 23 for 212 yards and 5 touchdowns, no interceptions against the Jets in that 42-21 victory, doubling up the Jets that week. And that got him his 5th AFC Offensive Player of the Week honors, tying Cam Newton in 2011 and Tom Brady in 2007 for the most Offensive Player of the Week awards in the history of the award. He has 2 weeks now. Lamar has 2 weeks now to get a 6th one and hold that record by himself, which wouldn't surprise me if he does, because he's already setting all kinds of records as it is. So, Lamar Jackson, going to be the MVP, playing at MVP level the last couple of weeks still. 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. By the way, that 1 interception, that was just the 3rd game this season that Lamar Jackson has thrown an interception in. The only player, the only quarterback to start every game for his team and have less games with an interception is Aaron Rodgers, the immortal Aaron Rodgers. 2 games. 2 games without a pick. Lamar's in pretty good company right there. Also, the last 2 weeks, my unsung hero for the game against the Bills, in my predictions, I said Hayden Hurst was going to get a touchdown. 3 catches, 73 yards, and a 61-yard touchdown in which he ran at a clock 20.5 miles per hour, which was the fastest sprint speed in the franchise this year. Faster than Lamar, faster than Hollywood, faster than Justice Hill. Thor, big, burly Hayden Hurst, 20.5 miles per hour, the fastest clock time on the Ravens this season. 3 catches, 73 yards in that game. Then, against the Jets, he has 1 catch, 21 yards, but it was a bruising catch. That run after the catch where he put former Raven Maurice Kennedy on his back, then took the safety and threw him into his own player, won him Angry Run of the Week from Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football, becoming the 3rd Ravens player, following suit with Mark Ingram and Pat Ricard in winning that honor. So Hayden Hurst really, especially later in the season, starting to show why he was a first-round pick of the Ravens out in 2018 coming out of that draft. So kudos to Hayden Hurst. Mark Andrews had a rough one against the Bills. 1 catch, 14 yards. He left the game in the first quarter with a bruised knee, did not return. Came back in a big way against the Jets. 4 catches, 52 yards, a touchdown. That touchdown set a Ravens franchise record for touchdown receptions by a tight end with 8. Now, he would need 3 more touchdown catches to tie Torrey Smith for 2nd all-time in receiving touchdowns in the franchise. Probably not going to get to Michael Jackson, who had 13 in 96 for the Ravens. But Hayden Hurst is in really good company. Stands by himself in a franchise that had Pro Bowler Shannon Sharp, Pro Bowler Todd Heap, Dennis Pitta, who has a franchise record for most catches in the season, and you're looking at Mark Andrews in just his 2nd year in the league, now has the franchise record for touchdown receptions by a tight end. So congratulations to Mark Andrews. He's in the Pro Bowl. He's a Pro Bowler. The Ravens have 12 Pro Bowlers. We'll get to that in a second. Just want to talk a little bit about Hollywood Brown here. He also tied a Ravens franchise rookie record for touchdown receptions with his 7th against the Jets. Really lackluster performance against the Bills. He had 3 catches for -2 yards. Arguably his worst performance of the year in a game in which he had a catch. But he comes back in a big way against the Jets. 4 catches, 45 yards. That franchise rookie record tying 7th touchdown reception. I think he gets the record this coming week or in the final week of the season against the Steelers. Either way, I think we're going to have another guy standing on his own from this Ravens 2019 squad. And with that being said, a lot of guys getting accolades for this team this year. The Ravens, as I said just a minute ago, 12 players voted to the initial Pro Bowl roster, tying the 73 Miami Dolphins for the most players voted onto the initial roster from one team. 12 guys. Now, I believe it was the 2007 Cowboys had 13 players, but not all of them were voted on to the initial roster. Some of those guys were alternates that got on when people dropped off. So, Ravens tying another NFL record. It just seems to be the year of breaking records for the Baltimore Ravens individually and as a team. The 12 Pro Bowlers led, of course, by your MVP, Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and his 14 touchdowns. He's going to have 1,000 yards receiving this year. He's going to Hawaii. Mark Andrews as the tight end. Matthew Judon getting his first Pro Bowl nod. Earl Thomas, he's headed to Hawaii. Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. You have 3 guys from your secondary that are Pro Bowlers this year. That shows how good and dominant this Ravens team has been. Then you look at it on the offensive line. Marshall Yanda and Ronnie Stanley. Then you're also looking at Morgan Cox as a long snapper and the best kicker in NFL history, Justin Tucker, with his 3rd Pro Bowl nod. So, Ravens well represented. I'm going to throw you a Tom Davis reference or Tom Davis stat here, Tom Davis-esque stat. Now, if you don't know who Tom Davis is, he's a 5-time Sportscaster of the Year in Maryland. Big time into the Orioles. He's a big baseball guy. He always comes up with these convoluted, obscure stats. And I came up with one here. You look at the Ravens roster, they have 10 guys on their active 53-man roster whose names begin with the letter M. 7 of them are Pro Bowlers this year. So, what does that mean? Not much, except that if your name begins with the letter M, come to Baltimore, chances are you're going to have the best season of your career and you're headed to the Pro Bowl. So, that's neither here nor there. Let's move on. Ravens taking on the Browns this week in what I think is going to be a bloodbath. We'll talk about that in the predictions here in hopefully a few minutes, probably a little bit longer than that. But Baker Mayfield and the Browns lost to the Cardinals 38-24 last week, essentially ending their season. They still have a glimmer of hope for the Pro Bowl. A glimmer of hope for the playoffs, but a lot would have to happen. Basically, for the Browns to make the playoffs, they would have to win out, and then every team in front of them would have to lose out. Or every wild card team in front of them would have to lose out, and then the Browns hold the tiebreaker and they get in. That's not going to happen because they're going to lose this week to Baltimore. So, Mayfield, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, another interception in that game against the Cardinals. And just a little factoid here for you. This is just the 5th time in NFL history that the two quarterbacks who, one of them leads the NFL in quarterback rating and one of them is last in the NFL quarterback rating, are just the 5th time in history that they're meeting in a matchup in Week 10 or later in the season. Of course, Mayfield, the worst-rated passer in the NFL. Lamar, the best-rated passer in the NFL, to those of you who say he can't throw, leading the league with 33 touchdown passes this year. Nick Chubb, 127 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 7th game over 100 yards, including that 165-yard, 3-touchdown performance against the Ravens in Week 4, but we don't need to talk about that. Leads the NFL with 1,408 rushing yards. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., he had 8 catches, 66 yards. Quietly has put together a 910-yard season, so he should eclipse the 1,000-yard mark, but he has just 2 touchdown receptions, and this is one of the top, arguably 5 receivers in the game, so 910 yards and 2 touchdowns is not what they were hoping for, but he's going to have a 1,000-yard season despite how bad it's been in Cleveland. You also look at Jarvis Landry, 5 catches, 23 yards. He is going to the Pro Bowl. He has 76 catches, 1,018 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Very disappointed with his usage in the game against the Cardinals. Cussed out Freddie Kitchens on the sidelines. That was caught on camera. for the national audience to see. We're going to get to that in a second. But I want to talk about OBJ and Landry here for a second, because these two guys, realistically, they were expecting 220 to 250 catches between these two guys, well over 2,000 yards, probably closer to 2,500 yards and 20 touchdowns from these guys. When you really think about what Landry and Beckham have done in their career, the fact that they're kind of like best friends, they're really nice wide receivers in the NFL. Both have been Pro Bowlers. They have 141 receptions for 1,928 yards and just 7 touchdowns between the two of them this year. And that's coming from Baker Mayfield, who set the NFL rookie record for touchdown passes last year. Yet, not Peyton Manning holding that record. It's Baker Mayfield. But he's the worst starting quarterback in the NFL this year, to have started every game for his team, that is to say. You look at the output, the combined output from OBJ and Landry. And let me give you one comparison here. Michael Thomas, arguably, in my opinion, it's not arguably, he is the best receiver in the NFL by himself. 133 catches, 1,552 yards, 8 touchdowns. By himself. Almost giving the same amount of production from one player as the Browns are getting from 2. And that brings me to my segment of shade. And my segment of shade, for the umpteenth time, is directed right at the Cleveland Browns organization. And I have done this either at the Browns or at Baker Mayfield a number of times. Didn't want to keep doing it, but how can you not? You look at Jarvis Landry cussing out his head coach on the sidelines this past week, telling the Cardinals to come get him. OBJ telling teams every week, come get me, get me out of here. It's been public from both of these guys, not out of their mouths to the media, but it's widely reported they have both basically begged other teams to get them out of Cleveland. You look at Myles Garrett trying to basically murder Mason Rudolph. Now look, that might be a little strong. Do I think that it was his intent to kill the guy when he swung his own helmet at him? No. But he could have. He could have killed him. If you see how hard he swung that helmet, if he hits him flush in the top of the skull with that helmet, he could cave his skull in. Helmet weighs anywhere from 5 to 8 pounds. Go to a gym, pick up a 5-pound weight, and go crack somebody in the head with it. Don't do that. But just pick up a 5-pound weight and tell me what that weight would do to somebody if you hit him in the head with it. Myles Garrett swung as hard as he could. Luckily, missed Mason Rudolph's head. Now look, that's not the segment of the shade, but basically that's the culture that's going on in Cleveland. And it's even further magnified because their head coach, Freddie Kitchens, wears a shirt the other week that says, Pittsburgh started it. You're an idiot. What are you doing? Why would you ever wear that shirt? Even though it wasn't at a team event, it wasn't at the stadium, the fact that anybody could see you wear that shirt and take a picture of it, you're an idiot. The Browns, as an organization, run by a bigger bunch of idiots because they gave Freddie Kitchens a vote of confidence in the last week, saying that they want to move forward with him as their head coach. Now, that's team speak. You say that during the season because they're not going to fire him with 2 games left, and they want him to coach with confidence. I think he's getting fired in the offseason. But the fact that they even came out and gave him a vote of confidence, just don't say anything. This team is an embarrassment to the city of Cleveland. And look, I am no Cleveland fan. The Indians are all right. I don't care much for basketball, at least the NBA. I'm not a big fan of Cleveland. I am certainly not a fan of the Cleveland Browns. But that city deserves better. Any city deserves better than what the Browns have given them. They came back to football in 1999 after being out of the NFL for 3 years when the Ravens came to Baltimore. They've had two winning seasons. None in the last decade. Only team in the NFL without a 10-win season in the last decade. They've had 1 playoff appearance. They have wasted first-round picks on 28-year-old quarterbacks named Brandon Weeden and drug addict can't get out of their own way quarterbacks like Johnny Manziel. They used the number 1 overall pick in the draft on Baker Mayfield. Now, look, it was pretty unanimous that he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. In hindsight's 2020. Anybody can look at it now and say, oh, well, Lamar should have been the number 1 pick. He wasn't. Baker Mayfield was. And he's the worst-rated passer in the NFL this year. That city deserves better. And that's coming from a guy who does a show for an AFC North rival, lives in an AFC North rival city, and roots for an AFC North rival. And if I'm saying it, it's true. Cleveland deserves better. Now look, I can watch them for the next 20 years lose more than they win. Gonna have another losing season this year. But that city deserves better. Every team deserves a chance to win. And look, they had a chance to win. Paper champions. They anointed themselves. They bought into their own hype in the offseason. Greedy Williams gets drafted in the second round of the draft. And before he ever plays a down in a preseason game, proclaims that the Browns are going to be world champions. Not this year. Not as the team's currently constructed. All right. That's it for the segment of Shade. Because we have to get into the playoff push. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. If I can be completely transparent here, this is my second take. I did a 22-minute show earlier tonight. And I had to delete the whole thing because I don't have the equipment to do the editing and all that. So if you guys ever want to do your own show, I suggest getting the proper equipment first. Maybe a MacBook and some microphones. I don't have that. All that stuff is expensive. And I don't have that kind of money to buy for myself. So Christmas right around the corner if my family's watching this. I'm just saying. But anyway, so I did a 22-minute show before I had to completely delete the show because I got so twisted and twirled up and bent over backwards and looped around like a pretzel trying to figure out these playoff scenarios for the AFC that I basically laid a goose egg and I had to start completely over after rambling on and on about it. So I'm going to give you my best take here. I'm going to try and simplify it as much as I can because there was like 6 pages worth of playoff scenarios and tiebreakers and whatnot, and it's just too much. Basically, here are the teams who have clinched. The Ravens have clinched the AFC North. The Chiefs have clinched the AFC West. The Patriots have clinched a playoff spot. Yes, the Patriots, 11-3, have yet to clinch their division because the Bills at 10-4 have also clinched a playoff spot, and the Bills could still technically win the AFC East. For the Bills to win the AFC East, they have to beat New England on Saturday, the 4:25 game sandwiched in that triple header on Saturday on the NFL Network. Then, the Bills could win out and still not win the division because then they would still have to have the Patriots lose to the Dolphins, in Week 17, which just ain't going to happen. If the Ravens win on Sunday, they're the 1 seed. If the Ravens win either of their final 2 games, they are the 1 seed. They've only lost 2 games in a row once this year. Those are their only 2 losses. They're not losing 2 in a row. Guys, they're not losing on Sunday to the Browns. But if they do, they're certainly not going to lose at home to the Steelers in Week 17. Knock on wood. Ravens are going to be the 1 seed. Chances are the Patriots are going to win out and they'll be the 2 seed. If they win out, they're the 2 seed. The Ravens win 1 more game. Chiefs are the 3 seed right now. In my opinion, they're basically locked into the 3 seed. They could still be the 1 seed. If they win out, New England loses out, and Baltimore loses out, the Chiefs would be the 1 seed. Actually, I think that if the Ravens lose out and the Patriots go 1-1 and the Chiefs win out, Chiefs are the 1 seed. Ravens can't be worse than the 3 seed. The Texans can't be better than the 4 seed. Realistically speaking, they could get to the 2 seed, but then the Chiefs would have to lose out, and the Patriots would have to lose out, and that's not happening. So your likely playoff scenarios are Ravens 1 seed, Patriots 2 seed, Chiefs 3 seed. The winner of the AFC South would be the 4 seed. Now look, the Titans could still win that division, but they did themselves an extreme disservice losing to the Texans last week. If they won that game, if the Titans won that game, they'd have a 1-game lead with 2 games to go, including a matchup against the Texans in Week 17. However, they lost. And now they play the Saints before playing the Texans again. If the Texans beat the Buccaneers on Saturday, they clinch the AFC South. They clinch it. So they could clinch before the Titans even take the field in Week 16. Now, if the Texans lose to the Buccaneers and the red-hot Jameis Winston, I can't believe I just said that, if they lose that game on Saturday and the Titans beat the Saints, which I don't think is likely, but hey, it could happen. The Saints lost to the Falcons earlier this year. If they beat the Saints and the Texans lose to the Bucs, it is a matchup for the division in Week 17. Still, all the Texans have to do is win one more game. Texans win one more game. They're the 4 seed. I think they take care of business on Saturday. Bills. The Bills could even be the 2 seed, but they'd have to win out. Chiefs would have to lose out. Patriots would have to lose out for the Bills to be the 2 seed. I think the Bills end up being the 5 seed. I think they win one of their last 2 games. They finish the season 11-5. All right, here's the roller coaster ride. I'm not going to give you all the scenarios because the Browns and Raiders are technically still in it, but I think they have less than a 0.1% chance of getting into the playoffs. Steelers, 8-6 right now. They're the 6th seed. They have the Jets on Thursday. I mean, the Jets on Thursday. They have the Ravens played the Jets last Thursday. Steelers play the Jets this Sunday. If the Steelers win and the Texans and the Titans lose, I believe that the Steelers clinch the playoffs. Steelers win out, it's their spot. Now, if the Steelers lose and the Texans lose out, the Texans would leapfrog. The Texans, instead of winning that division, would push the Steelers out of the playoffs. So let me say that again. If the Texans don't win the division, but the Steelers lose their last 2 games of the year, the Texans would still be the 6th seed based on they would be 9-7 and the Steelers would be 8-8. My head's already starting to hurt from this. Ravens can knock the Steelers out of the playoffs with a win in Week 17 because I don't think the Titans are going to. The Titans could lose each of their last 2 games. It could be the Steelers. I believe the Titans have the head-to-head matchup. Either way, really, what you're looking at now, I think the top 5 seeds are all decided. You're looking at that 6th seed. The Colts are the only team out. The Raiders, the Browns, the Titans, the Steelers, even the Texans could still be that 6th seed. I think it's going to be the Steelers. I just don't think there's any way that I don't think there's any way that they lose to the Jets this week. Even if they lose to Baltimore in Week 17, when Baltimore's probably playing their backups, you're looking at the Steelers winning that 6th seed because I think the Titans, as good as they've been, I think they just started out way too poorly this year, and I think they're going to lose each of their last 2 games. Saints still are playing for the number 1 seed right now. They're 11-3, and they're the 3 seed. So the Saints are trying to play for a number 1 seed. Or at least a bye. They're going to be primed and ready to go. I think they're going to beat the Texans, and then I think the Texans are going to lose. I think they're going to beat the Titans, and I think the Titans are going to lose again to the Texans in Week 17. So my prediction for the playoffs: Ravens 1 seed, Patriots 2 seed, Chiefs 3 seed, Texans 4 seed, Bills are the 5 seed, and the Steelers, as much as I hate to say it, will be the 6th seed. There, I said it. Oh my God, guys. Please go read. Look, just put in AFC playoff scenarios into Google and read it, and you'll see why it just made my head hurt reading this. There's so many different twists and twirls to this. It's ridiculous. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Moving on to my predictions for this week. And I have a bold prediction. Lamar Jackson right now is sitting at 33 touchdowns. He's 110 yards, give or take, shy of a 3,000-yard season. When he eclipses 3,000 yards, he will be the only player in NFL history with 3,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing in a season. In the history of the NFL, nobody has done that. Lamar is going to do it. That's not my bold prediction. That's pretty much a given, I think. One, I think Mark Ingram goes over the 1,000-yard mark in this game. He's 37 yards away. I think that they're going to try and get him that in the first half. Two, I think that Hollywood Brown catches his 8th touchdown pass of the year to set the new franchise mark for receiving touchdowns by a rookie wide receiver. That's still not my bold prediction. Are you guys ready for this? Here's my bold prediction for this week's game. Lamar Jackson is going to throw 7 touchdowns on Sunday. 7 touchdowns. And let me tell you why. I don't anticipate him playing a snap if the Ravens win on Sunday. I don't anticipate him playing a snap in Week 17. I think he wants 40 touchdowns. On top of that, I think this team got embarrassed by the Browns. And I think that this is the most confident I've been about a game, except for the Dolphins, all year. And the Bengals twice. But even then, I'm more confident about a Ravens victory this week than I was against the Bengals at any point. Lamar Jackson also heard what Baker Mayfield said in the huddle. He's like, let's go score so that Lamar is forced to throw. If he has to throw, they're not going to win. Lamar heard that. I think he throws 5 touchdown passes in the first half. I think he throws 2 more touchdown passes in the third quarter. I think Lamar Jackson sits most of the fourth quarter with 7 touchdown passes in his back pocket to give him an even 40 on the year and to stick it right down the Browns' throat. That's my bold prediction. Ravens win this game in a blowout. Baker has thrown for no less than 342 yards in his 3 matchups with the Ravens in his career. He's 2-1 against them. Of course, that one loss was his 3-interception performance that lost them the final game of the year last year and won the Ravens a division title in the AFC North. I think Baker's going to go over 300 yards again just because he's going to have to. Ravens win this game 49-24. Baker throws a garbage time touchdown to get him over 300 yards and a couple of touchdown passes. But Lamar Jackson, you heard it here first, is going to throw 7 touchdowns on Sunday to tie an NFL record, to get to 40 touchdown passes and own the Ravens franchise record for touchdown passes outright. Give him 3,000 yards in the passing and 1,000 yards rushing. Solidify the MVP. Solidify his record-setting 6th AFC Offensive Player of the Week award. Lamar Jackson, 7 touchdown passes on Sunday. Ravens win running away 49-24. Tune in next week. We will see if my prediction came true. Until then, as always, go Ravens. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me while I gave myself a headache talking about the AFC playoff scenarios. We'll talk to you next week. Take it easy, everybody.